today's session is on how to grow your design career and get a seat at the table. We have two really awesome guests with us today. We have Pat, International DesignOps Lead from Intuit, and Vuong from Head of Wix Playground Academy. So thank you both for joining. Vuong, do you want to kick it off with a brief intro about yourself?
Yes, sounds great. Hello, everyone. I see some familiar faces, some people from the team, some new faces, also an alumni from our program. So just to give you a quick background on who I am in terms of establishing some credibility, just a quick rundown. I have a design degree. Then I pursued a MA Innovation at Central St. Martin's, which is basically how to bridge design and business thinking together, how to look for innovation, and what are some ways that new ideas can come out of collaboration. I think the key word here is just collaboration constantly in terms of designers from different disciplines, with different stakeholders, also building relationships with designers and design schools, and also at Wix at my current job. What I'm most interested about is the concept of play. Throughout my career, how do we kind of bring more moments of this, because it invites moments of just exploration and collaboration. And it doesn't seem as serious as work. And to give you some background about the project and what I do at Wix, the next slide should kind of give you a little sneak peek. I run something called the Wix Playground Academy, which is Wix's web design program. This last summer, so we've been doing it for about 3 years, and this last summer we had to do it online. And I think with a lot of we're in the same boat as everybody else. As the video loads, you'll get to see. The main challenge was, how do we kind of bring that same feeling and attitude that we do in person, if you all remember what it was like to kind of be together, online. So what we did was we wanted to bring that tactile feeling. So we created a care package for all our accepted students. We had about 48 students out of 1,300 applications. So what you see here is like a sound sculpture workshop that we had that everyone kind of were able to do individually at home, but collectively. We also had a story smelling workshop. So we sent everyone 6 distinct scents to kind of keep inspired. So Pat, you mentioned earlier about being at home and smelling things. And it's very important that we, remember our senses. Collaboration with nonprofits. So the students get to collaborate and work with, other students, on a group project. And then what you see here is just moments of fun and play. So we had a drag queen come on for the closing party. We had a one-on-one likeness of Plato. He was a quiz master live from Athens. So I don't know if you have any team members out in Greece, but amazing. And then this is the closing. So, I think the next slide, you'll see the topics that we touch on the program revolve around web design, and we do it through different projects. So, it's not about this is a class, on photography, but how does it connect to the project at hand? Because I think a lot of us learn through projects. A lot of us learn the skills about collaboration, about growing as a designer through projects. So that's, our main vehicle to teach. And we do it through project-based learning. So on the next slide, you'll see that on the program, it's 3 months, and every month is a different project. So you'll have a marketing landing page with a big brand. So, we're constantly looking out for brands to collaborate with. Think of it as getting access to 48 designers, to create some marketing assets. So there's a call out there, a free call. So if you want to collaborate, definitely reach out to me. Applications. So if you do know designers who initially are, still in school, or, you have some networks to schools, we run 2 programs. So we're launching the EU, which is new this winter from the 4th to the 29th. So those who are in Central European time, please send them this information. Those who are in the US, we have a summer program starting in June. So the link is there. So it's just 2 different links to 2 different applications. So that's the quick intro to who I am, and looking forward to hearing more from the audience. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Great to have you, and very cool concepts. Pat, a brief intro about yourself, please.
Absolutely. So this is amazing, Vuong. I'm less exciting than you. So
I don't agree.
Well, I would love to see if people know what DesignOps is, but just chat or do something and tell me if you know. We'll talk about that later. So I'm Pat. I basically lead the international DesignOps design operation for the international teams at Intuit or QuickBooks. So if you're in the US, probably you've heard of Intuit. If you are outside of the US, you probably heard of QuickBooks. So we are kind of organized in international teams. So I have the privilege and the challenge of basically helping to make happy 7 teams across the world. So one is in the UK, where I'm based, one is in Paris, one is in Sao Paulo, Brazil, one is in Mexico City, one is in Toronto, Canada, one is in Sydney, and a couple of people are around Bangalore in India. So lots of challenges when it comes to designing. My background is a mess. So fun fact, I'm probably the only Finno-Ugric philologist you will meet in your life. And I'm saying that because I was the only one in my class. So I had the privilege to do 3 years basically by myself. I did design, I did a PhD in privacy and knowledge management, and then I've been absolutely dragged into design for the past 20 odd years, give or take, leading teams, managing teams, and being passionate about how can we think better, and about tables, but that's another story. So back to you. And I forgot, Intuit as a global team is growing. So if you are a cool designer, if you enjoy challenges, if you like the idea of global teams, drop me a line. I mean, you can always find me online. It's not difficult.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you both. Super happy to have such awesome guests on our show today. Cool. So before we dive into today's topic, just a quick rules of engagement. So as our guest speakers kind of go through their remarks, we're going to keep everyone on mute, but feel free to start submitting your questions right away. And then afterwards, we'll, unmute folks. You'll be able to jump on, ask your question. We'll kind of talk and debate and discuss a little bit further. And then at the end of the show, we'll have a quick survey on just the show, how much you enjoyed it, and a quick intro on the next session that we're planning. But with that, diving into the topic. So growing your design career and getting a seat at the table. There's a few different angles you can look at this from too. So firstly, as just like a pure designer, it's very important to always continue learning, always continue to learn. We're always need to focus on refining our craft, expanding the tool sets we work with, experimenting, playing, testing out as much as we can. And develop those hard skills because the tools that we change with, they evolve every day, especially these days we're collaborating in a much more remote setting, and it's a bit of a challenge compared to maybe design what it looked like 10 years ago too. And then as part of that too, like school helps you prep quite a bit for the hard skills and actual design, day to day, but maybe not so much on the business side, soft skills. That's something that has to be picked up and learned, and it's not always the easiest one. It usually comes through a lot of trial and error, maybe a little bit more error and learning from your mistakes and continuing to build yourself up. But, focusing on collaboration, communication, being proactive with your team members, just figuring out how to be a good partner as a designer on top of just being, amazing at your craft. And the next up is once you feel like you're maybe ready to take on responsibility, you're interested in partnering like in a bigger way with your team or another team, getting a seat at the table and building up your responsibility. Some very important things to keep in mind is just knowing your team's or your partner's team's goals and kind of building your ideas to solve for those. And proactively sharing recommendations, ways to achieve those goals, rather than just being a designer taking, briefs and taking orders, turning the conversation around a little bit and focusing on what you can provide to them in a bigger way. So focusing on outcome and results rather than just design outputs. It's a bit of a shift It took me many years to try to figure out how to do that, but I found it's a great way of just building bridges and connections with teams. And as a result, you'll have more of a voice at the table and be seen as more of a strategic level partner. And then a big one that we're always thinking through too is once you move just beyond the designer individual level is also growing as a team, as a whole organization. So figuring out how you measure your team's impact, what are the results you're able to drive. This is also where maybe Pat can also provide a lot of helpful insights too, but this is usually the part where design ops kicks in too, figuring out what's the process, how do we collaborate with all these various teams, how do we work together in a remote setting across multiple countries, but also building up clear culture and partnerships within the team. Also, part of that is having roles and defined growth path opportunities for everyone on the team to be able to expand what they're doing. They don't stagnate within their role. They can continue to grow, but do so with some long-term mentorship, someone to help guide them on the path and help learn along the way. But yeah, those are just a few of my initial thoughts. I'm very excited to hear from both of you what you've kind of experienced, learned, and your helpful tips and tricks for the folks on the call. Vuong, can you start us off, please?
Yeah, so Ben, thank you so much for the overview. I just want to kind of give some context on those 3 big points about, firstly, like growing as a designer. And I think it's very simple to just try. I think a lot of us as designers have, and probably human beings have, just a little aversion to new things, especially when new technology is coming out, new tools are coming out, and specifically for us, our main influence on designers is like right in school, because the program is geared towards students who are just about to graduate or alumni and about to enter their first job, is to help them feel like a safe space, to try something, to make mistakes, because out of that they may discover their passion. In school, you're asked to take classes that you have no idea about, and you have to commit to that, and that's such a scary thing to do. So on the program, it's not a class, it's basically a project. And on the project, you'll need to, learn how to do frames and animation, or you need to kind of learn how to model. So all these different things are tied to just doing and learning from doing. So that's the most important thing about, growing as a designer, to kind of feel like you just try. If you fail, it's okay. At least you learn something. So that's a little bit of some tip there. And then the second point that you had is about getting a seat at the table, especially in your entry-level job. I'm sure that a lot of designers first starting out have a little bit of a aversion or fear in terms of speaking up, in terms of bringing new ideas to the table. And something that we talked about here, on the warm-up is just talking a little bit about if you see something and you have an idea about the tools that are in the marketplace, because as an entry designer, I'm sure you're working like day to day in a particular tool, and you have insights there. And I'm sure that your managers want to know what's working, what's not working, because I think that ties into what Pat will be talking about design processes, about what are some ways that some of the learning that you have can be codified and shared with the bigger team. So if you don't speak up and you don't have a voice in it, then you really can't make any influence or change. So really kind of consider, okay, what are some skills and what are some insights that you have to share? And share, as long as you feel like you're kind of building towards something as a whole, and you feel like you're part of the same team and on the same team. So definitely think of it as a diplomatic process with other team members. So getting a seat at the table. And then the third point that you had about growing as an org is, for us, it's about connecting to the community. So, on the program, we have about 48 students, and we do have influence in terms of the product at Wix, in terms of the editor X, the products that we have for our consumers. But we also want to focus on the community. And so we have a project called the Social Good Project, where our designers get to create a website for at least 14 nonprofit businesses every single year. And it's a good chance for designers to really start to see, like firsthand experience, what a business needs and how a designer can solve that. And, that's, I think, a dream for a lot of designers, is to work on a real brief, from a client, to hear from a client exactly what's working, what's not working. Also to understand that clients speak a different language than designers. And then it ties into a little bit about getting a seat at the community table, where, some of our collaborators continue working with us throughout the year, and not just about like making a website, but to become partners for activities. So for example, we have a partner, Echo, from a gallery in Brooklyn, from Food Gallery. She does a tea ceremony. And on her, like tea ceremonies and events, she connects us to caterers and pastry chefs and artists and musicians. So, part of it, we see it as relationship building, and they become just friends. I think that's the great part about our role as designers, that it's so collaborative, that, we're always feeling like we're helping somebody, we're solving an issue. So it comes from a positive place. So I think definitely it in terms of growing as an org, it'll help if you connect to your community. So those are the three points that I have, and Pat has some amazing points, and would love for this to be a collaborative effort among all of us.
Yes, thank you, Vuong. I love the segue, and I will feel guilty when I start my presentation and my questions, because I don't have answers. I will have questions for you all. But I wanted to start with a story, because I started by asking kind of very vaguely, and I saw someone answered in the chat, if you know what DesignOps is. And like someone that answered, I believe Antoine, say, I learned about DesignOps last year. So did I. Because what happened is I was basically leading the user research in the UK. And I used to be quite a successful, high-performing type of person, and I was not. And I started connecting with other researchers at Intuit, and other people in the international teams were kind of feeling the pain. So as a researcher, I started doing what I do the best, research. Start learning about, well, how is it possible? I've been working for 18, 20 years, so I know what works. How is it possible I'm not performing? I did my research and I started looking at processes. How are we doing things? Oh, ways of working. How are we collaborating? Oh, tools. Do we have the right tools? So before I knew, I came up with this roadmap. And I went to my manager saying, we have a problem. It's not me. It's all this. It's all the tools. It's all the workflows. It's the end-to-end journey. It's how we are doing things, and I can sort it out. Long story short, they were looking for a design ops to manage the international teams. And when I was told if I wanted the role, I had no clue that I was already doing it. And in a way, I put a foot in the door and my seat on a chair and sat on a table. And this is how I want to tell this story, because I was excited, and really made me think and brainstorm the title of this, how to have a seat at the table. So the first question I started asking myself, next slide, it's, which table do you want to join? Hey, no matter what, but we are already sitting at the table. If you are an early, a young and ambitious designer, you probably are sitting in your squad table, and you probably can talk about innovation. I find that fresh graduates, people coming from school, are such an amazing source of inspiration. They always come with great ideas, and I find their input so valuable. So when they are at the table, they bring in a lot of external insight, innovation, new factors. So which tables do you want? Is not the right table? What size and shapes are the table you're looking at? So when we talk about joining the table, I mean, do we know what the table is? It's where decision happens. It's where action happens. It's where finance happens. I mean, there's so many different aspects in an organization and so many tables. And as designer, I mean, you can join any table you want. I mean, I do design ops, but all I can do is designing processes. I'm absolutely hopeless, and you will ask me to stop if you see me designing. Because design, it's a mindset. It's not pixels. So I started asking me the first one, which led to the second one. So second question is, cool. So you identify the table you want, perhaps, but the question is, why do you want to sit at that table? And the reason why this question is really important, it's because sometimes you strive and you really do everything to achieve a goal until you don't reach it and you don't realize that it was the wrong goal for you. And we all had probably wrong managers who actually wanted to be at the table for the wrong reason. The willingness to be at the table, it has to be motivated by some real passion or some real reason, that it's not a power game. I have seen in many companies people that are really striving to get to the table just to prove that they are more powerful, which doesn't mean they are smarter, which doesn't mean they have the vision. It doesn't mean that the most innovator people you can meet is just people that want to put and sit higher on the table to prove everyone else that they are there and you are not. Is that the right reason to be at the table? I mean, I want to be at the table, and the table that I want to be is a table where I can influence how my teams are working. The table, and the reason why I'm striving to get to my table, is I can have an impact on people, and I'm a servant leader. I do things to do things for others, but I know other leaders that do things just to prove their power. So before you start your journey to the table, whatever that is, ask yourself why. And if the reason is because you want to be the cool guy, and not because you have a motivation, an internal drive, think twice, because you can do more harm both to yourself and to your teams and the company that you join. Which leads to the third question. What is the chair? So, I mean, if you want to sit on a table, chances are you will need a chair. So is this bring your own chair type of approach, or steal the chair? How do you want to get to that table? Because there are many ways where you can get to the table. There's stealing the chair. You get early there and someone that deserves that chair doesn't find it. Or you can be so hard-minded that you bring your own, or you start building your own, and you will be lying on the floor before you will be able and ready to have a seat. How do you want to do that? Again, it's a very different mindset. And you will be perceived in very different ways based on the chair that you pick, on the chair that you choose, the process and the journey that you want. And you can start on a small chair because you may be in your early stages, or perhaps your table is small and you don't need a big chair. But then the chair will also change based on the table. So another question, no worries, I have a couple more. It's what is that you bring at the table? So if I'm inviting you at my table, whatever that table is, cool, why should I? Are you bringing passion? Are you bringing values? Are you bringing ideas? Are you bringing vision? What is that makes you deserve that seat at the table? What are the unique values, the unique elements that you are bringing to the conversation? Because that's what you do at the table, you talk. So I want to know that. And just to talk about me and DesignOps, I bring total dedication and passion, and the idea that I'm experimenting. I love experimenting. I think DesignOps, it's an amazing field because the lack of clear standardization offers the opportunity to try out things and share things. And this kind of experimentational or experimental, whatever you say, approach is what I bring. The idea to push the boundaries. But what is that you bring? You can bring rigor, you can bring math, you can bring analysis, you can bring skills, hard, soft. But if you want to sit at the table, you have to know what is that you're bringing, why people should give you space at the table. And another question for you, if you hadn't enough, is, okay, once you had your seat at the table, so what? So you made all your journey, you answered all your questions to create your own vision, your own roadmap, and then you find yourself at the table. But is that the right goal? I mean, there's always a bigger table. There's always something else, something outside, something different. It's growing your career in design is not growing your table, it's growing your vision. It's knowing that you are always at the table. It's knowing that the opportunities are there. Because it's, next slide, it's a ride. It's always a ride, because we are always sitting at a table. And the table evolves. It evolves with our company. It evolves with our teams. I mean, you may start in a tiny startup that suddenly grows into a multi-million, multinational corporation. And you start literally on a super tiny desk and a little table with 3 designers and a Scrum team. And you end up moving from the designer Scrum team table to the team, the middle management that starts setting the long-term, the short-term vision for the team, to the senior managers that start setting the product vision, for instance, and then you move to a director level and a different table where you build not only the product vision, but a more complex vision for the company or the design team. So there's always a table, but find out what is the right table for you. We are not all meant to sit and be directors. We all need to know the why, and we just have to enjoy the ride. And that was it. That's my provocation for you all.